Hello and welcome, everyone. We're going to give it just another minute or two for more folks to join on, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. In the interest of time, because I know you are all very busy people, we're going to go ahead and get started. Just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. This session is being recorded, and you will all receive a copy of that recording. So if you have to step away at any point or get distracted, not to worry. Again, you're going to receive a copy of everything you see and hear today, in addition to other materials and resources to help you going forward. That being said, we have a really small group today, which is great. We have about 3 or 4 total. Because it means I'm hopefully going to be able to answer any and all questions that you have. I want this to feel really interactive. So that being said, if you do have any questions, please feel free to put those in the Q&A. Or if you're more comfortable or if it's easier, if you want to raise your hand on the Zoom, I can unmute you and you can ask your question out loud. I know it might be difficult sometimes to type all that into the Q&A. I'll be pausing periodically to answer any questions that I see come through or if anyone has their hand raised. So just keep that in mind. Again, I want this to be as helpful as possible. And if you need closed captioning, you can turn them on using a link I'm going to post in the chat via Zoom. All right. Well, my name is Lindsay Clark. I am the Chief Borrower Advocate here at Savi. I'm going to talk a little bit more about who Savi is in just a second. And I am sort of our resident in-house student loan expert. I am a borrower myself. I have a little over $200,000 in student loan debt. Now, as I understand it, this webinar is designed specifically for residents. So I imagine that all of you have a lot of student loan debt. I also have family members with student loan debt. My brother is a second-year resident at Beth Israel Hospital in Newark, New Jersey, and he has about $480,000 in student loan debt between undergrad, master's, and medical school. And so I say that because I bring the perspective of a borrower, but specifically for you all, based on your career trajectory as residents and what you're going to be doing. I've designed this workshop in the next, 25 to 30 minutes, given, sort of those parameters, and to help all of you understand, what the layout is going to be for the next 10 years and how you can take advantage of some of these forgiveness programs that are at your disposal. Now, a bit more about who we are here at Savi, the company I work for. We are a social impact technology startup based in Washington, D.C. We were founded by student loan experts and advocates who've been fighting on behalf of the borrower for more than a decade. And I have been at Savi since the very beginning, since 2017, traveling around giving workshops and webinars to varieties of communities of borrowers across the countries, teachers, doctors, nurses, you name it, around their student loans. And we developed Savi because we realized how difficult it was for borrowers to not only understand their student loan debt, but to navigate successfully from start to finish around a lot of these federal programs. Yes, they existed, but a very slim percentage of people were actually successful in taking advantage of them. And so that's really what propelled us to develop Savi as a technology platform and a human service to help borrowers like you and me reach that finish line. But along the way, our goal is to make the experience of being a student loan borrower a better one, because I think we can all agree it's not great. So we try to do that by identifying as much additional savings as possible through things like income-driven repayment plans. And then set borrowers up for forgiveness through programs like public service loan forgiveness, which we're going to talk about in here in just a second. You know, at Savi, we like to think that borrowers are our top priority. We are not servicing your debt. We are not making money off of you or your debt. We are really here to serve you, the borrower, and look out for you. We think of ourselves almost as advocates in that way. And I see a few more folks have joined. Welcome. Just to recap, this session is being recorded. So if you have to step away, no worries, you'll receive a copy of that recording. I'm just doing some brief intros here, and then we're going to dive into sort of the meat of the presentation. Now, that said, all of you are here because your employer provides Savi as an exclusive employee benefit. So not just anyone can access our tool and resources. We provide them through these partnerships because we really think it's important to have that trusted messenger like your employer to help us connect with you all as borrowers. So we're really excited to be giving this session today, which is specifically designed for residents, because you guys sort of have a unique pathway and can really take advantage of and maximize your forgiveness. All right, so by the end of this session, and again, I know you guys are all very busy, so we're going to try to keep it as brief as possible, but I'm going to make sure that I answer any and all questions. I'll stay on for, as long as we need to. But here are sort of a few things that you can expect to walk away with. An understanding of, in the short term, ways to find immediate savings, whether it's lowering that monthly payment or whatnot. And then strategies for sort of long-term savings, which is going to really be around taking advantage of the big forgiveness program called public service loan forgiveness, which you all qualify for based on your employment at a nonprofit hospital. And then what you need to do to get started today. So, the actionable next steps that you can take to sort of set yourself up on that best path. All right. And again, please feel free to put any questions in the Q&A, or if you'd rather ask it out loud, you can raise your hand and I'll be able to unmute you. Okay, so we're going to talk about two major federal programs here today that are available to all borrowers with federal student loans. One is around repayment and the other is around forgiveness. So the first on repayment, we're going to talk about income-driven repayment plans. These can be a powerful way to help lower your monthly payment because they base that monthly payment not on how much student debt you have, but on your income. All right. So again, we're going to talk in more detail on that in just a second here. And then we're going to talk about sort of the second arm of that, right? So you have your repayment that you're going to be making every month, but setting yourself up for forgiveness on those loans, forgiving the remainder of whatever that loan balance may be. And that's through a program called Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or PSLF. This is essentially full forgiveness on the remainder of your loan balance after you work for 10 years at a qualifying employer. And again, we will talk in more detail on that in just a bit. All right, so let's start off with the repayment side of things in talking about income-driven repayment plans. So when everyone graduates, every federal student loan borrower, okay, graduates and goes into repayment for the first time, all right, you are automatically put onto what's called the standard plan, okay, the standard repayment plan. So that first bill that you're getting from, your servicer, Mohila, Aidvantage, whatever it may be, right? And that amount reflected, that amount due, which I'm sort of certain is probably going to be very high given some medical school debt. That's on this standard repayment plan. And that repayment plan calculates that monthly payment based on two things. One, how much student debt you have, and two, that you're going to pay it off in 10 years. So I'll use myself as an example. a little over $200,000 in student loan debt on the standard 10-year repayment plan, that comes out to a little over $1,000 a month, maybe even more, all right, on that standard plan. It's a lot, especially for someone just graduating, right, and going into employment, and given the salary of early residents, all right? So the Department of Education realized that most people could not afford their monthly payment on these standard plans. So they introduced what are called income-driven repayment plans, or IDR. And instead of basing your monthly payment on how much debt you have and paying it off in 10 years, these plans base it on two other factors. One, your income, two, your family size, okay? So you could have $500,000 in student loan debt. It wouldn't matter. If you're making, let's say, under $30,000 a year, you can qualify for as low as a $0 monthly payment on this plan. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how these work in just a minute here. But first, I just want everyone to be sort of aware of the language or the vocabulary around these plans. So income-driven repayment, or IDR, is sort of the umbrella descriptor term here. And then there are 4 different types of income-driven or IDR plans. You'll see on this first bullet here. There's the SAVE plan, which was formerly known as Repay. This is the newest income-driven repayment plan that was introduced last summer by the Biden administration. There is the Pay plan, Pay as you earn, IBR, which stands for income-based repayment, and ICR, which stands for income contingent repayment. Now, I'm not going to go into the weeds on the differences between these plans. A lot of it comes down to some technicalities around your disbursement date, loan type, etc. But I just want you to be aware that there are different types of income-driven repayment plans. And the great thing about the Savi tool that you all are going to have access to is that it's going to be able to tell you which one is best for you, all right, which is going to be that lowest monthly payment based on those parameters. So you don't have to worry about knowing all those nuances. But I think it's just helpful to generally know some of these terms. Now, here's how these plans generally work. They cap your monthly payment at anywhere between 10 to 20% of your discretionary income, all right? So part of your income is set aside to cover the cost of living. That leftover amount is called discretionary income. And that's basically what your payment is based on. That, they're taking 10 to 20% of that. All right. Now, this is pre-tax income. So they're looking really at your AGI, or adjusted gross income. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you file your taxes as single, you have no dependents, and an income of around $52,000 a year. On an income-driven repayment plan, that's going to come out to around $160 a month. Now, for every child dependent that you have, that will lower that monthly payment by about $50 per child. Even unborn child dependents count. So if you are pregnant, that can count, and that payment amount can get lowered. Okay. Now, your tax filing status here does matter. If you file your taxes as single, it's just going to look at your income. If you are married filing jointly, it will look at that combined income. And if you are married filing separately, it will look at just your income. I know a lot of people say, well, it's not my spouse's debt. Why does their income factor into it? Again, only if you are married filing jointly, but unfortunately, that's how that works. All right. And again, given how these plans work, the higher your income, the higher your monthly payment, right? It's sort of a sliding scale. Now, you could have as low as a $0 monthly payment on these plans if your income and your family size is high enough, but if your income is low enough, right? So if you are making $15 an hour, or I would say $30,000 to $35,000 or less a year, you can qualify for a $0 monthly payment. But then again, it's sort of a sliding scale from there, right? Now there's no income cap. So I work with plenty of doctors who, started out on their resident salary, making 60, 70 grand a year, on an IDR, and their payment amounts, right, reflected that. They're maybe paying $180, $200 a month. And then when their salaries jumped to $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, right, they remained on that income-driven repayment plan. Yes, their payment amounts went up, but obviously, their incomes had significantly gone up. But I'll tell you why they needed to remain on that plan when we talk about forgiveness in just a second. But all to say that from year to year, that amount obviously can change based on changes in your income. okay? The other thing about these plans is that you can be eligible for forgiveness on an income-driven repayment plan after 20 to 25 years of payments. Now, you all are hopefully not going to have to worry about that because we're going to try to get you forgiveness after just 10 years with the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program we're going to talk about in just a second. Now, let me kind of explain how you get enrolled in these income-driven repayment plans, because there is an application process. Because again, the standard sort of that you are automatically put into is that standard repayment. So you need to submit an application to actually get enrolled into one of these income-driven repayment plans. So that application, right, needs to get submitted to your servicer. Okay, that's the website that you log into to see your monthly bill and statement. Mohila, Nelnet, Great Lakes, Aidvantage, etc. And with that application, you need to attach supporting documentation attesting to your income. This can either come in the form of your most recent tax return or a pay stub from the last 90 days. Okay. Now, I'll use my brother, who actually, is a resident, and I did this for him. His first year out of medical school, he started residency right in July. And he didn't go into repayment until November, okay, right, because of that grace period. And we used his most recent tax return from the year before when he was in medical school and he had no income. So his first year as a resident, he was on a $0 monthly payment plan, okay? And each one of those $0 payments, even though he wasn't paying anything, right, counted towards his forgiveness. And I'll talk about that in just a second, all right? So the goal really here is to minimize your monthly payment to maximize that forgiveness, all right? And this will start to make sense in just a bit. So that application gets submitted to your servicer. They review it and they say, okay, Lindsay, you're going to be on the SAVE plan and you're going to pay $160 a month. And it locks that payment amount in for 12 months, so a year. 12 months comes and goes, and you have what's called a recertification deadline. And in order to maintain yourself in that repayment plan, you need to resubmit that application with updated income documentation, and your servicer will do the exact same thing again. They'll review it and say, okay, Lindsay, now for this year, you're going to be paying $180 a month, right? So the implication being, based on any fluctuations in your income or family size, your payment amount could fluctuate from year to year, okay? If your income goes down, payment goes down, income goes up, payment amount goes up, right? But you want to make sure that you're doing that yearly by that recertification deadline. Otherwise, you will fall out of the program and they will put you right back into that standard plan amount, okay? So that's generally how these programs work. Now, the great thing about this Savi tool, if you're wondering, okay, well, what income-driven repayment plan is right for me? When you create your Savi account, and I'm going to show you this just in a little bit here, we ask you some pretty basic questions. You can answer them off the top of your head to basically collect the information we need to help us determine what your best options are going to be and what that monthly payment could look like on one of these income-driven repayment plans. So you can see some of these questions right here, right? Okay, now let's talk about Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or PSLF. And this is really the reason why we are here today, because this is a program that I'm hoping all of you not only can, but will take advantage of. And this is what Savi is going to help you to do. So PSLF is essentially full forgiveness on the remainder of your loan balance, whatever that may be. It could be $5,000. It could be $500,000. It doesn't matter. Tax-free, so there are no federal tax implications here when you get forgiveness, after you have made 120 qualifying payments. Now, if you could see me on video right now, I'm saying qualifying payments in major air quotes because the devil is really in the details as to what constitutes a qualifying payment. And it really comes down to satisfying these three things that you see on your screen right here. Number one, you have to work for a qualifying employer. This is any government organization at any level, federal, state, local, or tribal, or any non-for-profit 501c3, okay? Many healthcare institutions are 501c3 nonprofits, okay? And so they are qualifying. And I can say with confidence, based on the fact that you're here today, we work with only qualifying healthcare institutions. meaning your employer is qualifying, okay? Now, the only stipulation here is that you must work a minimum of 30 hours or more a week, right? However, you can combine multiple or part-time employment to qualify. So let's say you worked part-time at one qualifying hospital and part-time at another. So long as, both or multiple employers are qualifying, and so long as combined you're working 30 hours or more a week, you can qualify, okay? Another thing about this employment aspect, it is retroactive. So public service loan forgiveness was signed into law October of 2007. So any qualifying employment that you've had going back to October 2007 is fair game, okay? And you can have had multiple employers, right? You don't just need to have worked for the same employer. If you are working for a qualifying hospital now, and let's say in a couple of years you move to a different one and it's qualifying, you can continue to qualify for the program. So you don't just need to work for one or the same, employer the entire time, right? And if you're just finding out about this program now, and let's say you're, third year resident for, again, retroactive. So the employment that you've had, since graduating and beginning to work can count, right? So that's number one, qualifying employment, okay? Number two, so while you've been working for a qualifying employer, you have to have a qualifying loan type. And the only type of federal student loans that qualify are direct federal student loans. Now, there are a couple different types of federal loans out there, all right? If you were dispersed student debt, or if your student debt was dispersed to you after 2010, there's a very good chance that you have this specific type of federal loan called a direct loan. The easiest way to check that is on, your servicer website or on studentaid.gov, where it lists your loans, looking for the word direct, or DL, which stands for direct loan. That means it is a direct loan, okay? And means it's qualifying. Now, there were some federal loan types prior to direct loans, older federal loan types, something called a FFEL loan, FFEL, and there are these Parent Plus loans. Those loan types need to be consolidated into a direct loan in order to qualify. I don't think that's applicable to, you guys on today's session, but if you think you might have a FFEL or Parent Plus loan, please feel free to let me know in the Q&A or the chat. But most of you, based on where you are right now in your careers and when you graduated school, should have direct loans. So you should be in the clear there. All right, so that's number two. You need to have that qualifying loan type. And then number three, you need to be repaying that loan on a qualifying repayment plan. And the only type of repayment plan that qualifies are income-driven repayment plans. It can be any one of those four that we just mentioned on the previous screen, okay? But you need to be enrolled on an income-driven repayment plan, and you need to be making that payment for the on-time and full monthly amount. So you need to basically satisfy all three of these things simultaneously: working for a qualifying employer, having a qualifying loan or loans, direct loans, and making payments on those loans on an income-driven repayment plan, okay? And then you need to make 120 total cumulative of these qualifying payments, okay? So let's say, you are working for a qualifying employer, all right? Maybe this was while before you graduated medical school and went into repayment. You're working for that qualifying employer, but your loans haven't gone into repayment yet, right? That period wouldn't count, right? So you need to be working for a qualifying employer in repayment status on those loans, right? They need to be direct loans, and you need to be repaying them on an income-driven repayment plan. And that's what will count, that month will count as a qualifying credit. And you need to accumulate 120 total. Now, let me just clarify a few common misconceptions about these 120 qualifying payments. They don't need to be made consecutively. You just need to reach 120 total cumulative qualifying payments. So let's say you worked for a qualifying employer hospital for 2 years and accumulated 24 qualifying credits, okay? And then you left, took some time off, or maybe you went to work for a private hospital, right? An employer that doesn't qualify. Nothing happens to those credits. They simply pause. And if you were to ever resume your eligibility in working for a qualifying employer, you could resume accumulating those credits. All right. So again, they don't need to be consecutively made. However, with that said, you can only receive one qualifying payment credit per one payment per one calendar month. meaning you can't double up on payments in a month and get double the amount of credits, or you can't make a big lump sum payment and get more credits than you normally would. The easiest way to think about it is this. In any given calendar year of 12 months, the maximum amount of public service loan forgiveness qualifying credits that you can receive is 12, one per month. So if you have to get to 120 total, right? You can only get 12 a year. You guys are all very smart and could do the math. That's 10 years minimum before you can achieve forgiveness under this program, right? And that would be if you were making them consecutively, which again, you don't have to. So when people describe this program, they often describe it as a 10-year program, but I discourage you from doing that because it's really not just about the time served of 10 years. It's about these qualifying payments, right? So you want to think about, how you're going to reach those 120 qualifying payments, okay? All right, let's see here. I think I saw a question come in. Okay, someone asked, I'd love to hear more about Parent Plus consolidation options to qualify for PSLF. I heard there was a deadline for next year. So Andy, there's no deadline for next year as far as Parent Plus consolidation. However, I will say on the Parent Plus loans, and just for everyone's context here, Parent Plus loan is a type of federal loan taken out by a parent on behalf of their child, but in the parent's name. That loan cannot be transferred to the child. It's as if the student debt is the parent's. It is completely tied to that parent. So when it comes to income-driven repayment plans, it's based on the parent's income. When it comes to qualifying for a program like public service loan forgiveness, it's based on the parent's employment, okay? Now, in order to qualify for public service loan forgiveness, PSLF, Parent Plus loans must be consolidated, okay, into what's called a direct consolidation loan. And this is something that the Savi tool and service can help identify and perform in order to be eligible. So yes, those Parent Plus loans can qualify, but they first need to be consolidated. And it's again going to be based on the parent, the person who the loan's name is in. It's going to be based on their qualifying employment. So Andy, hopefully that answers those questions, but there is no deadline. There is no deadline for next year. Okay, I got another question. Someone asked, I applied for loan consolidation and income-driven repayment via studentaid.gov, but the IDR application is still under review given the federal court ruling right now. What should I do in this case? Yes. So, agent, I'm not sure when exactly you may have applied because there's literally been on a day-to-day basis, this has changed. But I will say this. So yes, there was recently a lawsuit that came through to try and block President Biden's newest income-driven repayment plan, the SAVE plan. And as a result of that, on studentaid.gov, the Department of Education's official website, they basically have, as of right now, today, pulled the online application to enroll in income-driven repayment and to consolidate. Okay, good to know you applied in May. So you can't apply online. However, you can still apply through Savi because we do a paper form. It's pre-filled digitally and digitally faxed. Now, when we submit it and when we enroll you, you'll automatically be put onto a zero interest forbearance. Okay, meaning you won't accumulate interest and you won't have to make a payment right now. And that is because the program has been blocked. And right now, I was just talking to someone from the Department of Ed earlier this morning. They don't have any new information. This is sort of on a day-to-day basis. But you should have received word that you were put onto a forbearance at least, and you're not responsible for making payments right now. So let me know if that's not the case. But otherwise, we're going to have to wait and see sort of how this plays out as far as going forward on those plans. So one other thing that I would just say about the combination of income-driven repayment and public service loan forgiveness. So obviously you need to be enrolled on an income-driven repayment plan, right? For that payment that month to count towards public service loan forgiveness. If you are qualifying for a $0 monthly payment on that income-driven repayment plan, each one of those $0 payments counts as one of those credits you need, and you need those 120 total, right? So, I always tell first-year residents who are just out of medical school, going through repayment for the first time, using that previous year's income on those tax returns, should qualify them for a $0 monthly payment their first year out. And each one of those months, they're gaining closer, right, towards that 120. Okay. So, many people's inclination when it comes to trying to tackle their student loan debt is, I want to pay this off as much as I can, as quickly as I can. For you all, right, and setting yourselves up to take advantage of public service loan forgiveness, it's the opposite. You want to try to minimize that monthly payment to maximize that forgiveness. You don't get any gold stars for trying to pay more on your student loans than the minimum amount due on that plan. And it's actually, you're throwing that money away because it's going to be forgiven under PSLF, right? So that's kind of the mindset I just want to make sure you are all getting comfortable with, because I know that, for many people, it's, well, maybe as soon as my salary increases, right, I'm going to try to pay this off. That I discourage you from doing that again, especially if you're going to be setting yourself up for public service loan forgiveness. And you're going to continue to work, for a nonprofit hospital, whether it's your current one or a different one. It may even impact, your future, employment choices, because how far away you are from getting that forgiveness. And if it means staying another year or more, at a qualifying employer, then that may impact your decision, right? So that's how those two sort of factor in together, okay? And the great thing about Savi is that we basically exist to help you navigate every step of this process. And on top of that, we take on the administrative burden of the forms and the paperwork that you need to submit in order to qualify. So just to give you an example here, how do you know if your employer does qualify? Well, again, when going through your Savi account and setting that up, we're going to ask you about your employment, and we have a database of all of the qualifying PSLF employers in the country. So when you start typing in that employer name, you'll see it pop up on that drop-down menu. You'll be able to select it. We'll ask you some further clarifying questions, and then we'll be able to, incorporate that information into your calculations. All right, any other questions on public service loan forgiveness before I keep moving forward? And hopefully that makes sense. I am curious, I know that this was specifically designed around residents, and I'm not sure if you're able to put anything in the chat or the Q&A, but curious if we have first-year residents, maybe those in their second or third years, where sort of on your residency journey you are. Again, I think, one of the biggest things that at least, my brother who's a resident didn't know was, taking advantage of that really low monthly payment on an IDR plan, right? Your first, second year out. And that's not a bad thing. In fact, that's what you want to do, because again, you're setting yourself up to have that loan forgiven. And each one of those months, right, is counting towards those 120 you need total. All right. Oh, yeah, we've got some first years on today. Great. So agent, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Let me know if that makes sense, what I'm saying. All right. Another aspect, again, if you're not sure about what loan type you have, right? If you have those direct loans that you need to qualify, or if you have an older FFEL loan or what have you, another aspect of the Savi sort of account, setup and tool is our loan sync. So we provide a loan sync through a technology called Plaid. If you have a Venmo account, you've used Plaid before to connect your accounts. What it allows you to do is to select your servicer. So, let's say Navient in this case, enter in your Navient username and password credentials, and it's going to sync over a read-only snapshot of that data. So it's not giving us access or anything like that, but it's allowing us to see exactly what's going on with your student loans. How much, what loan types, interest rate, disbursement date, all of these things, instead of asking you to input these manually, right? And it changes from month to month because of interest accumulation and things like that, right? This loan sync will always sync over the most up-to-date information so that we can be sharing with you the most up-to-date information on your student loans, right? And, most people have on average between 5 to 6 different student loans, right? Because they're not all dispersed in one lump sum, it's throughout the course of your schooling. So that's what makes this loan sync so great. All right. Going to take a quick pulse check. I don't see any other questions that have come through. Again, if it's easier to ask out loud, please feel free to raise your hand and I can unmute you. Oh, let's see, we might have gotten one more here. Let's see. Okay, so agent's saying, all right, you haven't received the forbearance email. Your new loan servicer after consolidation, Mohila, says you have repayment due August 15th. And you are wondering if you need to contact Mohila regarding this payment due. So you know, I will say this, it is notoriously difficult to get in touch with Mohila. Actually, just yesterday, three senators and a union announced they are suing Mohila for serious malpractice on administering student loans. I also have Mohila myself. Um, I'm glad your consolidation was processed, and you now have Mohila. And it might be showing a payment amount due as 815 simply because they have just put you on this, forbearance just from month to month. So that could very well update. But I'd be curious if on your Mohila, account site, it's showing that your payment amount and what payment amount that is. It should show, if you are actually enrolled in an income-driven repayment plan. It might say the SAVE plan or something like that. So that's what I would look for. Also, when you go through and set up Savi, when you sync that account, your Mohila account, it's going to be able to detect if you're on that income-driven repayment plan, right? So that's going to make a little bit of a difference. All right. So speaking of, Savi, I want to make sure that all of you get set up so that going forward for any and all questions and things that you're going to need to enroll in these programs and all that good stuff, we are here to assist you. Because, while these programs can be helpful, they are certainly confusing, and they are constantly changing, especially given the political landscape. Policy around these programs has changed tremendously over the last few years, but has the potential to change even more going forward, depending upon what happens in the election. So again, this is really why Savi exists, is to not only help you understand what's going to be best for you, right now, but illuminate that path going forward. So basically how it works is we're going to ask you, some of those simple questions. I showed you some of those screenshots to collect the information we need to show you a personalized repayment and forgiveness plan. I mean, down to the cent as to what you'd be eligible for, exactly how long until you'd qualify for forgiveness, and how much in forgiveness you'd be eligible to receive. And we monitor, new programs and policy changes. This is my primary role here at Savi, to incorporate any of that into your Savi account and communicate anything important to you. I know, I mean, you guys are all very busy people as first year residents, second, whatever it may be, do not have the extra brain power to closely be following, the ins and outs of student loan policy as it changes on a day-to-day basis. That's our job. And so, by having that Savi account, we're going to communicate with you about anything important that may impact you and any action you may need to take, any deadlines or things like that. But then we take it a step further. If you decide to sort of upgrade to our premium level of services, we take on all of the administrative burden for you and all of the paperwork and applications required to enroll in an income-driven repayment plan or public service loan forgiveness. And there are forms for that. They need to get signed off by your employer. The great thing is we have relationships with all your employers. We do that all digitally. We send it to HR, get it signed off, and we submit it on your behalf. And then we monitor those applications to ensure they're being reviewed by your servicer. So just as I was talking to a fellow attendee about their Mohila applications and account, we monitor all of that. If it's taking too long or you haven't heard back from your servicer, we help to follow up with the servicer for you. Again, you guys are all busy, so we do all of that work. And you're able to access one-on-one support via email, chat, or telephone at any point in time. And you have the same person working with you throughout the entirety of your case. We are a small team. We have an internal team of about 8 people who are our customer support student loan experts. So this isn't a chatbot or anything like that, but you have the same person that you're working with. You don't have to re-explain what's going on when you enlist our help. And really, we make it easy to get started and sign up. Instead of having to fill out all these various applications on your own, You fill out one application through your Savi account, and then we pre-fill the applications that are needed to submit. You can kind of think of it like a TurboTax for your student loans. And whenever you log into your Savi account at any point in time, you see this dashboard, which is sort of like mission control for everything that you're doing, with Savi, monitoring and managing your applications, the latest update and status, etc. You can also invite your friends and family to benefit from Savi as well. From that dashboard on the left-hand side, you'll see that invite friends or family. You can enter in their email address and they will get an invitation email to take advantage of Savi as well. And again, setting up that Savi account should take you less than 10 minutes. Some simple questions around your family size, marital status, tax filing status, right? Income, and employment. Those are really the core of what we're trying to collect to be able to identify, what's going to be best for your eligibility. Syncing those student loans, right, is sort of the last step here. And then you reach our last page here, our plan options page is what we call it, where we then show you what that best option is going to be. So you can see here, this is someone who's eligible for forgiveness under public service loan forgiveness and eligible for the SAVE income-driven repayment plan. So you'll see what that new monthly payment amount could be, that total payment over time, all right, how long until you'd be eligible for forgiveness, down to the year and month, and exactly how much forgiveness you'd be eligible to receive. You can expand below for more details. It gives you a comparison of that plan to the standard repayment plan that you were originally put on. You might be eligible for a couple different income-driven repayment plans. It shows you those, right? And it gives you all the information right there. And it's at this point where the next steps are going to be submitting those applications to get enrolled in your IDR plan, right? Your repayment, and tracking towards public service loan forgiveness. And so at that point, you can upgrade to Essential. For some of you, your employer covers or subsidizes that cost. And so we're going to give all of you a follow-up email with access to your Savi accounts. And so you'll see from that account whether or not that Essential plan has been subsidized. If not, you can upgrade. I believe it is at most $70 a year, not a month, $70 a year, one time, 100% money back guarantee, and totally up to you whether or not you'd want to upgrade. You can continue to use your Savi account anytime completely for free, get your best options and enroll on your own. But again, this Essential plan is really about giving you access to sort of that one-on-one support at any time with those student loan experts and all of the application enrollment and monitoring. That's what's sort of included in that Essential. And just to give you a bit more, of insight into what is included in that Essential or what that looks like, you can see here on the left, this is someone with 3 different employment certification forms for public service loan forgiveness because they've had 3 qualifying employers from different periods of time. So they're going to need to submit 3 forms, 1 for each employer. And really with the click of a button, we're going to generate and pre-fill that form and we send it to their HRs for them to get those signatures and then submit it on their behalf. So we eliminate all the human error. There's no need to print out forms, drive them to someone in HR to get signed, none of that. And on the right here, you'll see how we pre-fill and digitize the income-driven repayment plan application. This is about a 6-page application. We make it so easy. You can literally, it's a DocuSign integration. You can do it on your phone, electronically sign, attach that supporting documentation, and we submit it again on your behalf. And then once it's been submitted, you can track and monitor all of that through your Savi dashboard. So again, you'll see the same person with their 3 employment certification forms and their income-driven repayment application, right? They're going to be able to see all those in one place, okay? And then at any point, they can zoom in as to exactly where they are in the process, what's been submitted on their behalf, what we might still need from you, estimated wait and review time from your servicer, right? All of that stuff we monitor with you to make sure that you have full transparency and confidence into what's happening. One of the most frustrating things I find as a student loan borrower is the lack of transparency you have into what's going on with your servicer. and the fact that it is almost impossible to get a hold of a actual human when you try to call your servicer. I attempted to call Mohila the other day and was on hold for almost 3 hours, and was never able to get to a human operator. And they do that intentionally. And I finally gave up. And that's the experience of most borrowers, and why these servicers are being sued left and right oftentimes. So this is really where Savi comes in. And then if at any point along the way you have a question, you get an email from your servicer and you're not sure what it means, you can reach out to our support team, through your Savi account. So you can send us a message. I know response time there says 3 to 5 days. I was just checking earlier with our head of customer support. We are actually now responding within 12 to 24 hours via message and email. Or you can give us a call. Our telephone number is also listed in your Savi account, and our wait time is 1.5 seconds. So we really take pride in the fact that we know how difficult it is for borrowers to access human support and good support. And so, we want to try to provide it as quickly as possible. So to get started, we are going to be sending all of you an email right after this session that is going to have a link to activate that Savi account. So you don't have to worry about doing anything right now. Just look out for that email. It'll come with the subject line, "Welcome to Savi." And that's how you can get started in setting all of that up. All right, so again, what's next? Look out for that email right after we wrap up today's session to accept and activate your Savi account. There'll be instructions in that email. You want to go through and complete that Savi account, entering in that information, syncing those loans should take you less than 10 minutes. Seeing your best options, and then reaching out to our support team if you need any assistance along the way. All right, so that wraps up our formal presentation. But I am happy to answer any and all questions anyone might have. So please feel free, like I said, if you want to ask it out loud and raise your hand, I can take you off mute so you can ask it out loud. But I hope that this was helpful. And I'll stick around here just to see if anyone has any remaining questions. All right, let's see. I saw another question come through. Okay, agent, let me confirm that is if you used your Gmail to register for this webinar, then that is the email that we're going to use, that we're going to send this to. So if that same email was the one you used to register, I can confirm that. Give me 1 second here. I'm just going to copy that. Oops. Hold on. Okay. Going to do a stop share here. Right. All right, agent, I'm going to confirm this as we speak. But anyone else with any other questions, please feel free to put those in the Q&A or raise your hand. I'm happy to answer those. All right, I just pinged that to our team, so I should have an answer for you momentarily. Agent, but any of the others on? Any questions? Andy, you good? All right, great, Andy. Okay, agent, we're checking right now. I will give you, if you hang with me for one more minute, I should have an answer. All right, we're looking right now. We're looking, apologies. Agent, where are you doing your residency? Yeah, so it absolutely, I mean, we're definitely going to want to, oh, nice. Okay. Amazing, North Shore. So, yeah, we're definitely going to want to look into this. I mean, I will say it has been an absolute mess with these IDR applications because of what's been going on with the lawsuits and them putting, putting borrowers into this forbearance and not processing them, et cetera. Um, so I would say, it sounds like that, that $3,000 due is on that standard plan and likely because it hasn't been processed. So what we'll probably want to do is resubmit your IDR application again to Mohila and we're going to do that, again, not through the online portal at studentaid.gov, but we digitally fax it so that it can be, re-reviewed. But also if you graduated, I'm assuming, you started residency this month, right? And and uh so if you started residency, this month, and you graduated, in May, you should be still in your 6 month grace period and not be in repayment, until November. So you shouldn't be starting payments any earlier than that. Yep, exactly. Yeah. So that is the all another sort of suspicious thing. And I will say Mohila is, I mean, like notoriously the worst of all the servicers. And the one thing, I'm not sure if you've had student loans before this, and this is what shocked me about being a borrower, is to not trust what your servicer is necessarily telling you, or that they're doing things correctly. You think it's federal government, these are my loans, they must be right. In fact, it's quite the opposite. So we are going to want to make sure and probably reach out to Mohila either on your behalf or with you, because your first payment should not come until November. But we can enroll you, and this is maybe why they haven't processed that application yet, is because you can't submit an IDR until 2 months before you go into that actual repayment, but you should have nothing due on 8/15. So I would say this: make sure you have not set up any auto debit or added any bank account or anything to that account yet, just so that they don't accidentally auto deduct from that in August. This happened to borrowers, even though they weren't supposed to go into repayment. This happened when payments started back up last year. So that can kind of just make sure that there's no bank info, attached to that, because I've seen that happen. But otherwise, yes, let's see here. I'm going to confirm. Yep. Okay. We confirmed that you registered with that email, and that's the email you're going to get it to. So look out for that email coming momentarily, and then go through that Savi account. I would say, making sure you upgrade to that essential, and that way you can access our one-on-one support, because we're going to want to get a hold of Mohila with you, and make sure that they set your payment amount for the right date. But we can also then make sure we submit that IDR. I imagine when you consolidated right online, you had to submit an IDR during that time, right? That's part of the process. And because of that, it might have either triggered something to put you into repayment earlier, but they've also not been able to process it because it's outside of that 2-month window. So again, like I said, we're going to want to just help you to sort this out with Mohila. So, if you upgrade to that, essentially you can send a note to our support team, mention that, you had a webinar with me, Lindsay, today, and this issue with Mohila. And I've also pinged our support team too to look out for you. And we'll help get that sorted. But good news, I mean, for you, right? Setting you up on a $0 IDR or as close to it for your first residency year, even going to your second residency year, right? Even though you started working in July, we'll use the tax return, so it'll only basically have half your year's income. You should still qualify for, under $100 payment a month. And keeping you on that IDR for as long as you are working for a qualifying employer, and ultimately setting up, to have that loan forgiven. So getting on that track, it's great. Literally first month of residency is ideal, because I can't tell you how many of your fellow residents around the country end up refinancing their loans, thinking, oh, I'm going to get it down to a lower interest rate. Refinancing turns it private, and you're no longer eligible for any federal repayment or forgiveness programs. So no forgiveness, and there's no way to undo that. So, if going into it, okay, here's what this is going to look like for the next 10 years, right? I'm trying to keep that monthly payment low, et cetera, but I'm setting myself up to have it forgiven. I think it changes a lot. So anyway, thank you for joining. Sorry for the long spiel, but look out for that email, and good luck. I hope residency is going well. I'm sure it's a lot and tiring, but wish you all the best. Any other questions for now before we wrap things up? All right. Well, it looks now, look out for that email, and we'll talk soon. We look forward to helping you. Thanks so much, everyone.